Allie and I are both self-employed and need to create passive income for our future. So here we are planning to jump into, with both feet, into the short-term rental business. We're now looking for another remote cabin in the woods to buy, this time to fix up and rent out. That is what this video is all about. And when you see some of this video footage, you're going to understand why we wanted to take on this next venture. And there is this cool surprise that we found hidden in the woods that you don't want to miss it. It's pretty cool. And let me know if you've ever been motivated to do something like what I'm going to show you. We are definitely pushing the limits of our comfort zone. And by the way, this is actually part 4 of a 4-part series. The first 3 videos took us into Texas, where I bought the first abandoned cabin in the woods. So if you want to know how we actually got to this point, you could check out those other 3 first. They look like this. So, on with this adventure. Welcome to our 5 to 9, a journey we can take together towards a destination that will never be reached. Allie and I have spent a lot of time at the first cabin that we bought. Neither of us had corporate jobs anymore, so we had some freedom from the confines of time those types of jobs usually impose on you. But being self-employed has its own confines, as you probably know. If you don't work, you don't get paid. There are no matching 401k contributions, there are no paid vacations, and there is no predictable income. Being self-employed usually means time equals money, and you get to decide how much of one you are willing to sacrifice for the other. I figured I had maybe 10 more earning years in me, and Allie had at least 15, maybe 20. She's 11 years younger than I am. And if you remember from an earlier video, the cabin I just bought didn't have a mortgage since I had to pay cash for it. That's because it was in a floodplain. But that also meant that I depleted all my savings. So I was in my late 50s with 0 in savings or in the stock market or anywhere. And that fact created the necessary focus on how my financial future was going to unfold. All I really had to my name was that cabin. And I didn't want to ask Allie to be content living in a cabin in the woods for the rest of her life. And now with her in a major part of my life, I don't think I wanted to do that either. So with the mantra, do what you can with what you have, where you are, and I believe it was Teddy Roosevelt that said that, our brainstorming was in full effect. And I heard somewhere that I think real estate could or would double every 10 years, or maybe it was rent could or would double every 10 years. I don't know. But either way, we decided to focus on both, and maybe one would be true. Allie did have some savings stocked away from her corporate days. And so with a small down payment in mind, we sat on the sofa at the cabin, enjoying the wood-burning fireplace,
now that's
and
a freaking
scrolled
fire.
through Zillow looking for another cabin to buy. But this time, we wanted to rent it out and create that elusive passive income that everybody wants. Our search parameters took us beyond the Texas border, really just because we couldn't afford anything that we found in Texas. We wanted a place that would draw people back outside, so we weren't looking at a condo or something. We wanted them to disconnect from the hustle and bustle of their everyday lives and enjoy the sounds of nature again. We wanted to stay within a 1-day drive of where we currently lived. We needed to avoid airplanes and airports. I hate that crap. We didn't want to drive overnight or stay in hotels just to get there. So we looked at New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. We were okay with a bit of a fixer-upper, but wanted something more ready to go than not ready to go. Our 5 to 9 journey was about to hit the road, and that road was taking us north into northwest Arkansas. As is our way, we created a spreadsheet of interesting places, and one in particular stood out. It was a small cabin on 30 hilly acres close to the famous Buffalo River in northwest Arkansas. It sounded good, but we had never heard of the famous Buffalo National River. So how famous could it really be? A little of Googling on Allie's part, and we learned about that famous river. It actually sounded really cool. It reminded us of the Guadalupe River here in Central Texas. I called the realtor and I set up a date to drive up and check out our next cabin in the woods. And for this part of the story, we're going to call this cabin number 1. And a couple days before we were to leave to go up and look at the cabin, the realtor calls and said that the owners had accepted an offer on that cabin number 1. But we were welcome to put in a backup offer if we wanted to. And that would be like a girl saying she had a date already to the dance, but I should stick around just in case that guy didn't show up. Thanks, but no thanks. I'd rather get drunk instead. We were pretty deflated, to say the least, but later that night, Allie, of course, started back up the search, and she showed me this listing on a different cabin we hadn't seen before. And she said, have we seen this one? I don't remember it, but it's in that same area near the Buffalo River. This listing just popped into our search out of nowhere. It was a 400 square foot cabin. It sat on 2.5 acres, and it was only about 3 miles from the river access, which seemed pretty close to us. We're going to call this cabin number 2. Of course, I called the realtor the next morning, and of course, there was already an offer on the table. But he said, we have another cabin for sale in the same area by the same owner, and that one was available. We're calling that cabin number 3. Cabin number 3 was also a 400 square foot cabin on 3 acres, and it was for the same exact price. So our trip to Northwest Arkansas was now back on the table. We booked a hotel in the closest town, packed up the truck, and headed off on a Friday morning on this new adventure. While still on the road, the realtor called to inform us that there was going to be a full price offer coming in on cabin number 3, the cabin we were currently driving up to see. A touch of frustration got the better of me, and in the car, I'm like, what the hell, buddy? We are literally on the road to come see it. And to be honest, the realtor's name is Buddy, so I wasn't actually being a complete dick. And in his infectious country accent, he says, well, it's gonna be a beautiful day, so y'all should just make the most of it and float the famous Buffalo River. Great. And then he said, and the offer on the other cabin 2, it fell through. And so if you want to take a look at that one, I'll set that up. So we're back in the game, I guess. At this point, I wasn't quite sure, but we were going to go on we were already on a road trip, so we're having it. Allie did some research about this Northwest Arkansas. It's actually known as the most beautiful part of the Ozark Mountains, with an abundance of rivers, hiking trails, breathtaking bluffs, deep valleys, and world-famous trout fishing, apparently. It was really pretty by the pictures anyway. So we figured this was going to be a worthwhile adventure, no matter how it turned out. It was 635 miles from my front door to the cabin. That takes about 11 hours on the road, and it's going to cost about $135 in gas to get there one way. That sounds pretty reasonable to me. That's my sweet spot. The only thing we knew about cabin number 2 was that it was a small cabin, currently used as a short-term rental, so that was cool. But it had 2 even smaller cabins on the same property. They were called camping cabins. So basically they were 2 no-frills, 160-foot structures with cots, air conditioning, and access to a bathhouse. So Allie and I are driving 635 miles to check out 3 small cabins in the Ozark Mountains near the famous Buffalo National River, a place we had never even heard of a couple of days earlier. So were we really going to buy 3 more cabins in the woods in Arkansas, just to hope that we can create that passive income for our future. Yeah, we probably are. Well, as JP Morgan says, the first step toward getting somewhere is to decide that you're not going to stay where you are. So, let's see some of the footage of this place that we're checking out.
This is Rush Landing takeout point. These guys have done their kayaking for the day. This is the last takeout point before you get to the lower national forest, wilderness, whatever stretch, which past here it's a long stretch before you can take out again. But it's certainly pretty, and it's just maybe 20 minutes to this landing from the cabin. But beautiful, weather's beautiful. It's very cool. All right, down a little closer. That's where we were up there at that fence. Kayakers going by. The bluff, you can hear water dripping off. Big bunch of rocks fell off. Caught that. Water's a little high. It's been raining up here, but you can see how clear it is. It's at 7. I'm guessing 7 feet. That's what the ranger said. Very pretty. First sighting of Buffalo River for launching, 10 o'clock in the morning. River's up from the rain. Park rangers telling the stories. This is Dillard's Ferry. Pretty cool. So we just floated through here. A little bit of rapids around. It's a little flooded. Almost like a little lagoon. It's really pretty. Kind of just dead, so we just beached it. We might try a little fishing, stretch our legs, have another snack.
While you are building a career, you are constrained because you have to live close to where the work is. And while you're building your personal life, you are also constrained because you have to find the balance between what your career will allow and what your life needs. Plus, I recommend, you have to figure out what your partner is into. I mean, what she's really motivated by. You need to learn the difference between what is gonna be a passion compared to what just might be a passing phase. So think of this. Imagine if she says that she's always wanted to be a dog breeder. And so you invest in a couple high-end purebreds, have a bunch of puppies, and then it turns out she just loves dogs and your house has turned into a kennel. So watch out for that.
This is for you, Logan.
You will dedicate hours, days, and years to hopefully build some momentum for yourselves, for your relationship, and for your future. Through trial and error, you will discover what works and what doesn't, what is worth your effort, what isn't, what can be sacrificed, and what needs to be held on to. Here is where you can and you should take risks. You can and should accept new challenges. You can and should start new adventures. Life is meant to be lived, not just survived. And I'm starting this new venture into Northwest Arkansas at 56 years old. Gentlemen, with the right partner by your side, you can do anything the two of you can dream of. I know that you can do it on your own. I'm not doubting that. I just think it's more fulfilling with the right someone there to share it with. But you better choose the right girl. Otherwise, this dream you dreamed up will turn into a nightmare. Obviously, Allie and I knew we had to buy these cabins. This area was beautiful, and we were not going to approach our future still hiding behind the constraints from our past. and because of that cool water slide. That was pretty cool, right? I mean, come on. Who thought that was going to be there? And when you come to the point in your life where you can actually see the end of it coming at you pretty quickly, like I can, you start to think about things differently. You want to prioritize experiences and time together over complacency and perceived comfort. You want to prioritize making new memories over just reliving the old ones. And you want to prioritize what you are going to leave behind for the next generation over selfishly just consuming everything inside. We might need to explore that last part a little bit more in a different video. It's a little confusing, but I think I know what I'm talking about. Allie and I do not have a destination for our life together. We are on a journey, and we are excited to see where this journey into Northwest Arkansas and this new short-term rental business is going to take us. So, with that said, what's the next step? Well, we're going to fix up these cabins a bit and get them on Airbnb before the next season starts. So we have a few months. That's what's next. I invite you to stick around to see how that goes. We do have some footage of that. So here's the question for you. Would any of you guys jump in with both feet for an opportunity like this? It's a big commitment, I think, and it's in another state. And if any of you said, hell yeah, why aren't you then? Let us know in the comments how you plan to make a difference in the back half of
and we
your
will
life.
go that way.
And we'll see you in the next video.
Homemade beef jerky.
Thanks for watching.
A cigarette?
Cigarette. Someone had the same idea as me.
That's a terrible idea.
Sounds like a golden idea to me.
Ugh. Whose kid is that?
Gross.